Hi everyone. Good morning everyone. The MARUF participants. My name is Ezgi Küçük Çalışkan. I am the director of the urban plans, and I'm the coordinator of MARUF. In 2019, the first MARUF that we organized, there were 555 participants actively contributed to the Play Marmara game, and this is Play Marmara Sea game, and we will look at the results of the first stage that we conducted. Moderation will be conducted by the coordinator of environmental manager, Ahmet Cihan Kahraman, will be the moderators and me together. I'll talk about Play Marmara very briefly, but Ekim Hanım will talk about it in detail. Play Marmara is attended by the development agency, the mayors, and participants from academy, youngsters and students. This is a game they play together, which takes the Marmara Sea as basis. This is a serious game focusing on transportation. On the 1st and 2nd of October, we had this in 2019, and we made a report of the outcomes. And it is accessible through the website of the Union of Marmara Municipalities. And we have the director of Gürsel Erim from the Ministry of Environment, Professor Doctor, the Sea Institute manager, and playlist. Ekim Tan is the director and coordinator of the playlist, and we will listen to the speakers. I'd like to give the floor to Cihat Bey, why we are focused on Marmara Sea. And in terms of, we'd like to listen from the environmental management coordinator. Thank you, Ezgi Hanım. I will make a small introduction. Ahmet Cihat Kahraman is my name. I'm working as the environmental management coordinator. The Union of Marmara Municipalities is trying to conduct activities with the Marmara Sea, and the foundation motivation is the Marmara Sea. This is we are such an organization, and since then, of course, we are working with the environmental management perspective. The Marmara Sea has to be evaluated and reviewed, and we are of the opinion that there should be a solution focused approach. Since 2012, so we have rooted Marmara Sea Symposiums. This is a tradition in these symposiums. Everyone, all the stakeholders related to Marmara Sea gather together. There is the Ministry of the Urban and the Middle East Technical University, and there are participants from these institutions, and since then we are in close cooperation and we are working together. As you know, in 2021, in February and March, there is mucilage, and there was a rapid focusing process with the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization. We started a webinar process for raising awareness. On 6th of June, we finalized the Marmara Sea report. It's an outcome as a the system, and we are here with the implementing items of the Marmara Sea report. As Ezgi Hanım pointed out, the serious plays are important for seeing certain points, and with the Minister of Environment and Urbanization, there is a foresight already present. The Middle East Technical University and also the Minister of Environment and Urbanization, they cooperated with us, and we started that process. And with Ekim Hanım, we the basis for the serious game, and play Marmara Denizi was came into being like that, and this is the second important component of Marmara Sea. I will not take much of your time. Our speakers will give you detailed information, and with this introduction, with the play Marmara and Marmara Sea can same basis. Cihat Bey, I'd like to give the floor to Barış Bey, the first round of talk. Middle East Technical University Sea Institute manager he is. Then Ekinwan will talk about the play. Thank you very much. I have a short presentation, so I share my screen. First and foremost, thank you very much for your invitation. I'd like to thank the Union of Marmara Municipality. I'd like to congratulate them for the last few years. I have a chance to participate. This is a very nice forum. And I'll talk about the current situation of Marmara Sea. And it is something that people are curious about. And I'll talk about Marmara project, as Cihan Bey pointed out. What we are doing in digitally, I'll talk about this, and which results will be within Play Marmara Sea. There are two parts of my presentation, and I'll try to finish in 10 minutes. Marmara Sea is something that we've been studying on for quite a long time, and like it is the case, there are humanitarian pressures on Marmara Sea. Marmara Sea is an internal sea, and there's a huge population around it. The pressures are more. There is the climate pressure. The temperature is increasing. Temperature is increasing in the sea, and the hunting, the certain eutrophication and pollution. Eutrophication, with the effect of pollution, there is the change, and the less decreasing in oxygen, and some sector activities are these, and we are taking this into attention. There are some services, they are called ecosystem services, and they're affected by this. Our objective is to protect the ecosystem and also have the services and economies to make them into more sustainable factors. And for that reason, we are getting together innovation and scientific studies, and we take into account the sensitivities of the public. And for certain managers, we're trying to come up with policies. And this is how we address Marmara. Marmara Sea is affected by the temperature in most of the region, and there has been increase more than 2 degrees. And when you look at the global ocean, that is 1 degree. However, in Marmara Sea, it is 2 degrees and more than 2 degrees. And in the observations, so we see the trend, and you can see this with the overall structure. There is a more stratification and a change in the flow systems, and it's a more stable sea. There is such a transition in Marmara Sea. In all Turkey, there are such effects. The colors you're seeing right now can be seen as indicator of the territorial inputs. It's about the microscopic plants propagation. When there's more nitrogen, it is there, and you can see that Marmara Sea. In Marmara Sea, you can see the effects of apparently, and the pressures are more in Marmara Sea. What is the change in the last 40 years? When we look at 1985, 2005, and 2010 and 2017, there were some decreases, and the main input is inorganic nitrogen and inorganic phosphorus. And we see that the oxygen levels decrease, and inorganic phosphorus is, and in the field we see inorganic nitrogen, and the main sources is the pollution and the inputs into Marmara Sea, and as a result of this there's mucilage, and as you know the main reason of formation is about the household and industrial waste, nitrogen, phosphorus, metals, and loss of biodiversity, extreme fishing, and destruction on the coastal line. And there are effects of many pressures, but these are the main reasons. And of course, we can say that the climate change has an effect there. There's an increase in the temperature, and this is about the sea has become more stable. Mucilage was very commonly observed in Marmara. Every year there was mucilage, but it is part of the natural ecosystem. What we see in Marmara is an extreme case, and in the activities we conducted between 10 to 30 meters, we see that it is quite intensive. It is not there now present, but the oxygen levels are below the critical level. As the Minister of Environment and Urbanization, we are trying to have the digital twin of Marmara Sea. You have to have a Marmara Sea in physically what is the water mass, what are the inputs from the system, and we then look at the ecosystem with the phytoplanktons, fish. We get it combined ecosystem, and with the different scenarios you have to look at this. So there's a very critical thing, what is coming from the straits, and what kind of pollution loss are coming from the different basins. So you have to enter these into the system in the right manner, otherwise you cannot get the right results. In Play Marmara, the scenarios, so there are 9 different scenarios we have. You will be able to conduct tests about this with these, about the ecologic situation of Marmara and how it will be changing. We looked at the scenarios was 2016 and 2024, and then we looked at the currency business as usual, and there was a Çanakkale Strait impact. With oxygen, there is the Mediterranean Sea. What happens if this decreases, and how it will affect Marmara, and the oxygenous water incoming, and the increase of Marmara oxygen, how it will have an effect. And Istanbul Strait is affected, the tuna sea, and how it is affected. We can see the scenarios, and there are different territorial burdens. What happens if, for example, discharge is decreased, and of course there are the impacts of Istanbul and Izmit, which we consider as metropolitan cities. Of course, in order to get good results, we have to have some criteria, and for that, with specialist professors, we define this as the current situation, and in azote and phosphorus. These are in order to make Marmara better, we defined objectives. This is the current situation. There is a territorial inputs, and inputs from the straits and outputs from the straits. And there is oxygen, and there is oxygen by the plants, and there is also a non-oxygenous layer, simply to be taught. And when we continue from 2016, there isn't much change in the surface oxygen level. However, under the surface, beneath the surface, As the current situation continues, the oxygen decreases, and it doesn't go off the 80 units of oxygen that we determined. And when we decrease the inputs by half from Çanakkale Strait, of course, the Çanakkale water is important for the oxygenation, and when we decrease it, there is a deterioration of the process. It is um, uh, positive. There is the oxygen is less from Marmara Sea. Actually the oxygen and the water coming from Mediterranean will make Marmara is better. When we look at Istanbul Strait and Bosphorus, when we look at the discharge, and in order to understand the effect of the Black Sea, coming from Black Sea, of course, there's the effect of Black Sea and its pollution. But as we can see, even if we close this in the short term, Marmara doesn't attain the objectives, but without any urban discharge and Black Sea input in 5 to 6 years, it will achieve the results that we wanted, although there are territorial impacts that are continuing. And you can see the of course, with the discharge, we believe that it has an important effect. And also, we cannot do much about the Black Sea, so we will look at the territorial inputs and urban inputs. From the basin, we decrease the impact by 40, and in 3 and 4 years, when you take 2016 as basis, it achieves the goals, and if we decrease by 30%, there's 5 or 6 years that it will reach. İzmir Bay and Istanbul, if does not, there is no input, there is a very slow improvement and well-being of Marmara Sea. What is the feasible or accessible scenario? Of course, to the managers, we have to come up with the feasible, implementable scenarios. So we can see the most feasible scenario is as in line with the current strategies. The point-based discharge should be exposed to advanced treatment, and the territorial inputs will be improved, and also by 30 to 40% the decrease of burdens, and within 5 to 6 years the ecosystem will be in the level that we desire. There are the priorities. The feed nutrition control from the basins should be decreased, and for the 40% of the decrease of nitrogen burden, we see that from southern Marmara it is more, and there is such a priority. In a very briefly, I'd like to make a summary. And regarding Marmara system, the sea ecosystem, I'd like to answer the questions. Thank you very much, Barış Bey. This has been a very valuable research and study. You provided us with different scenarios. Maybe Cihat Bey will add certain things, but I wonder, is it that Ekim Hanım make a public opinion research? There is the scientific reality and also the perspective of people based on their own qualities or about the information that they acquire. Cihat Bey, if you would like to have something to add, you can take. Actually, I agree with you. And Barış Hoca, I listened to Barış Hoca in this different many times in different media, but I always focus on one point. This was a horizon opening for me. I have taken some notes, but he said something very important. Use the 75 this percent of discharge is treated advancedly, and the other burdens decrease. 18 micromole level, so we can go up.
This is the best environmental condition for Marmara Sea. Can we say that? Yeah, it's nearly that. But what we have, hypoxia, there happens a hypoxia threshold. It's not without any oxygen, but some oxygen where fish can breathe. 80 is where we took it from the threshold. The Sea of Marmara, from the Black Sea and other burdens, 80 is a near good environment. It would be higher for another sea, but for Marmara Sea, yes, this is the best. Biodiversity is also important. How will it change? How will it grow? But oxygen is a very serious marker. That's why we're emphasizing it. Of course, well, environmental status is very important, and Gürsel Bey will be talking about it. Mr. Gürsel, this is all I can say. And let's go to Ekim Hanım to see the results of the public opinion poll. I'm sorry. Can you see the screen? Yes, we can. I will shortly will talk about this method, and then Play Marmara 2019 I'd like to remind something about, and then I will go to the poll results. As you see, the method is a physical table board game. Architects and urban planners, we come all together. Most of the games are about urban problems. You see are the specialists and different, not specialists, but local, regional citizens. And we don't talk about the jargon, but we talk about the dynamics. This is play. This is not really a game. Play is the effort to understand each other and other human beings and the status of what's happening. What's important is the learning points for us. This is since 2010 we are active. And what we do in the we are mainly Amsterdam-based. We have very good relations with Turkey because my family is in Turkey, and we're trying to get more collaborations and cooperations. And rather than being in the architecture, we're going into policy making, as you see at the affordable housing game in Dublin and Amsterdam. We're trying to improve housing. If I were Istanbul's mayor 2012, it was a physical method, but hybrid methods are also very important for us. These are physical interface at Istanbul Modern. Thousands of people met this, and this was the Play Marmara basic foundations for Play Marmara. This is from Mersin, MARUF, and others were there. Mersin City Lab, Play the City. Citizens and university find solutions together. It's 2019 Play Marmara. MARUF was in, we were all in the physical MARUF. We had 6 or 7 sessions. Approximately 200 people came over, specialists, youth, politicians, And this display Marmara was the fundamental of the game actually. All these development agencies, they have the data, but they're not integrated in the Marmara region. So play Marmara Sea, transport, industrialization, urbanization, everything were integrated and came together. And this was possible. This is how we designed it. 20 to 29th of September in 2020, we had an open poll. And then on October 21st, we had a physical both webinar and we will be inviting people to play. Play Marmara Denizi, the outcomes, the results, and the poll and the survey, as Barış Hoca and Professor Barış and Dermi also put input. Play Marmara Denizi Summit, we had videos from. And here we see, as a special designer, we are not marine specialists, but as we try to understand what is the problem from 25 million people population, and Marmara Sea serves all. So what does this mean? It's the 4 northern European countries coming together to have this 25 billion people together. So it's such a vulnerable and small sea Marmara is, and populated so much, such a very dense population. And this is how we started the survey. Where are we, and what will we be affected? As a designer, what I understood from the summit, from Professor Barış and the others, it's like all life is dense in the first 30 meters. From 10 meters down, oxygen reduces, and below 30, its oxygen is at critical levels. If we gather together several resources and references, we looked into the fish, hundreds of diverse fish. 47 of them have already disappeared, and 21 are also about to get extinct. And one of the questions we asked was, it is multifactorial. We had 327 participants, and ship waste, Black Sea waste, and pollution. 4 factors were taken into consideration. Can we talk about a main factor? We need to ask Barış Hoca. We still asked, and we had a very interesting result. Agriculture was very innocent. Only 8 people out of 327 said agriculture could be a reason for the pollution of the Marmara Sea. Industry is high, as we see. Industry is blamed highly, over 60%. So 200% out of 300 say industry is the problem. 100 people said human population, and only 80 people went down to pollution from the Black Sea. So it's very important to see that industry is being blamed mainly. Then we can discuss together later with Barış Hoca, I hope. And the next question was an open question. You said agriculture, you said human population, and this is what we wanted to put forward. In one hand, discharge points, on the other side, wastewater. Istanbul and Kocaeli, what we could find is there is high. They can't clean it. Human population, for example, the population is so dense. If we look at the ratio to the population, we can understand the relationship in between the and also the we have looked at the discharge points, and we have said that we could take all this to the physical. From industrial regions, from Ergene, also there are other factors. Kaybettim. Teknik arkadaşlarım there is problem in cleaning. It's like a black box. Here also the regions here we talk about new data. I can't clearly hear it, so I'm sorry for the quality of the interpretation. So, and they say the ship waste is also important, they say, for Black Sea. Of pollution, global warming is important, and could this be what could we? The first was recycling of the waste, and it's not directly related to climate change, but probably it's related to Marmara Sea, that's why. Another problem is who are the first for the change to be thought about. Could you make 3 collaborations, we asked, and of course environmental and urbanization ministry was the first. I thought they would be second. Specialists were in the second. MMU was in the third. Industrial chambers was the fourth. And Agriculture and Forestry Ministry was the fifth. And the last question was, what about the action plan? 4 main groups: environmental protection, innovative applications, and when you were to choose, what would you choose? We asked them of the main topics, and control was the most chosen. Controlling was very important for them. Environmental protection and prevention was the second. About those who chose action plan with controlling, all cleaning and treatment plants that discharge to the sea shall be kept under control, and all rivers and agricultural fields should be audited remotely, and also environmental protection and prevention. Discharge standards of treatment plants shall be more qualified, and discharge standards shall be increased. Treatment plants should have the latest technology, and also in water treatment plants, biological water treatment shall be taken into consideration. And about the new regulation, there should be a waste management action plan. About sea garbage, action plan was the second. And this is all I want to say for now. And then both research and public opinion poll we will discuss on 21st of October. We hope to use this as an input. It's interesting to see I also played, so it's very interesting to see the results and the outcomes. I was surprised with some of the outcomes. Now we could discuss a lot. What do you think, Cihat Bey, Mr. Cihat? And I think we should discuss, but Marmara Sea Action Plan, let's hear about it from Mr. Gürsel, and then Mr. Barış, Mr. Gürsel, Ms. Ekim, let's discuss all together. I also took some notes, and because I have I saw the ratios and what I thought about it beforehand came true, so I was very satisfied. So first let's listen to Mr. Gürsel and then do the discussion. I would like to thank everyone who played a role in this organization, and respectfully I salute them. And the results of the polls are very interesting, and it's overlapped with our observations. And when I present it, we will understand better what is a mucilage, and we have to look into this in more detail. And in any environment, it could be water or any sort of water, nitrogen and phosphorus goes in and accumulates. Phytoplanktons are overgrown. This is an overgrowth of phytoplanktons. This causes mucilage. As seen in the Marmara Sea, there are many external factors. In May 2021, it was a natural disaster in the Marmara Sea. This mucilage, what did we do as the Ministry of Environment and Agriculture, with coordination of the institutions, of governmental institutions, everyone included, we started doing some work. And MMU was also in the coordination. 2,100 people came together to discuss, and at the end we had an action plan put together. This action plan was opened, and June 6th at Kocaeli, with MMU's president, the distinguished minister, was declared in a press conference to the public. And we also had the roadmap. It's a very important plan. In a very short time, under emergency conditions, this was the action plan we could put together. The priority was physical cleaning, and then go down to the factors causing it. And physical cleaning, we started right away with the coordination of our Ministry of Environment. Within a month, Marmara Sea surface was cleaned 7 days, 24 hours each day, and 11,000 mucilage was gathered. And this, we cannot say mucilage is over. There is still nitrogen and phosphate coming into the sea. We have cleaned that mucilage, but tomorrow we can have a new mucilage. What do we do in order to prevent mucilage to be happening again? When we look at the action plan, we saw that in the Marmara Sea, the water mass was stable. Black Sea and Mediterranean, they have a different density, so there is a flow regiment. And also global environmental change increased the temperatures in the sea. Marmara Sea is above 1 degree centigrade compared to the average of the world. So it's a natural disaster.
So, of course, as the ministry, the nitrogen and phosphorus input is there, and How can we struggle with these three factors? The flow regiment and stability of the Marmara Sea cannot be changed, and you cannot get rid of the increase in temperature. You have to decrease the pollution input. There are three types of pollution. One is the territorial pollution. The second one is because of the activities within the sea. And when we say territorial ones, there are the point ones and also disseminated ones. And when we look at the 22 items of the plan, it's about the disposal of the pollution, the disseminated pollution, and in order to have this in the rivers, there should be buffer zones, and the in the action plan, as we have this, with the there is a study conducted in this regard. There will be the water beds will be co-formed, wetlands will be formed, and as Kin Hanım said something, we are talking about 67 acres of land. There is a 25 million population. The population density is too high. There is 1 square meter. There is 1 person per capita, and of course, as a result of urban activities, there are the sewage system, and there are industrial activities. So 1/3 of the industry is dense in this area, and in the industrial activities become a very important player. And the ministry very urgently started the limitation for the disposals, and the waste treatment centers of the municipalities were turned into the advanced waste systems. And it's about not disposal but reuse, as this is in one of the classes. There is industrial symbiosis should be implemented there. Waste of one sector should be a raw material of a different sector. We have to work through it. As the ministry, in order to conduct these activities, after the action plan is declared in 6th of June, we established a coordination information system. Coordination information system under the leadership of with the governors, and there's a unit of provincial coordination units, and also coordination and information center, and there is an inflow of information to this center. But this is not something that the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization can handle. Different organization, institutions, and NGOs have their responsibilities, and there is a coordination board is established, and under the presidency, under the coordinatorship of our ministry, there are the deputy ministers of 6 ministries, governors of 7 provinces, and the metropolitan municipalities of 7 cities, and mayors of them, and the mayors of the 3 cities, and NGOs, and the scientists were involved in this coordination board. There are 22 items of action plan. The board took some decisions, and activities were shaped accordingly. When we look at this, when you look at the first coordination board, there are more than 30 activities and sub-activities, and who should conduct these activities, and how to make the coordination. And when the coordination will be made, they're all defined. In the second coordination board, With the of the establishment of this board, with the decision taken, and the point and diffuse point source pollution and disseminated pollution is taken. And of course, there's a strategic plan. There's the preparation of integrated strategic plan. And when we look at the integrated strategic plan, in Marmara, there is a good environmental studies, physical-chemical, biological. There are 14 different indicators, and in order to achieve this, what should we do, and how it should be done, and when it should be done, and with budget it should be conducted. The activity is still ongoing. Internal and internal stakeholder meeting is completed, and the external stakeholder meeting will be there with the Union of Marmara Municipalities. We are going to have finalized external stakeholder meetings as the ministry in terms of what has been done in terms of legislation. First and foremost, in order to there is the circle communique of the discharge standards. There's a limitation to that. As Ekin Hanım pointed out, there are controls and monitorings, and in Marmara Sea, in 30 points there were monitoring, and this 30 monitoring points increased to 150 monitoring points, and the monitorings are continuing in these 150 points. And of course, the technological equipment should be used, and there is a communique published by our ministry. There is a science that this continuous waste water monitoring system, and of course, it is about the dissemination of there's a 10,000, 5,000, and 1,000 cubic meter of monitoring is conducted, and it's the monitorings are designed accordingly, and also the activities within the sea should be there's ballast, and there's the household discharge of the ships. There was the establishment of a radar system, or with the use of GIS. There is a monitoring cast, and within the scope as the ministry for in Marmara Sea, there are 800 wastewater treatment center, and all of them are visited, and the activities for turning of them into the advanced wastewater treatment centers were discussed, and there are with the innovative technologies in neutral energy or positive energy systems should be prepared, and they should be their activities for dissemination of these centers. And there are some sectors likewise for especially the olive activities. There are pollution because of this in the southern Marmara, and in order to control this, there are technological transformation and revision activities have been conducted. And there is the diffuse sources, and with the diffuse sources for the basin of northern and southern Marmara, and there is a definition of this definition we made, and in this definition including the straits, the Susurluk Basin plus Marmara Sea hydrologic basin limitations for Istanbul, Kocaeli, and Bursa, covering all the provincial boundary limits were taken, and the definition was very important. And in the integrated strategic plan is designed on this axis, and within that scope, in order for Marmara Sea to have the good status, steps were defined. The Ministry of Environment and Urbanization cannot do everything alone, as the ministry, as His Excellency under the coordination of the ministry with the 6 ministries, 7 governors' house, 7 mayors, and with NGOs and scientific organization, there is a joint working culture, and within the scope framework of this, we are involved in a very large scope study, and with the integrated after publishing this integrated strategic plan within the scope of the laws of municipalities and ISKI wastewater. They municipalities had to do certain things, and within the Ministry of Agriculture, and there is with the diffused in order to prevent diffuse pollution, and with the good agricultural policy, there are activities, and there are fishing and also shipbuilding yards and all the activities. There should be clean manufacturing methods will be implemented. So there is a zero pollution mechanism system as a plan, and there is the global climate change effect that we cannot have an impact on. Even if we cannot have an impact on, in regional terms, we have to prepare the regional climate change reports, and in 7 provinces the plans are prepared, and they are in preparation phase. Some of them have been approved, some of them are still under the review, and of course there's a 1-degree increase, additional 1-degree increase in Marmara Sea. The reason of this, in addition to stability in the sea, there is the suspended waste material rate is very high, and we prepared the sea waste action plan, and we have to decrease the number of suspended waste materials, and in 7 provinces we are working in the sea waste, and with the zero waste implementation in all the settlements with the coast to Marmara. We prepared the action plans. The land activities are still ongoing, and in few days we will finalize this, and as the ministry with the certain access, these are the activities that we are conducting. The most important thing is about the preparation of integrated Marmara Sea strategic plan, and it should be declared to the public. And of course, we have to continue to these activities. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to continue. And would like to thank Musa Bey. Thank you very much. We become informed about the activities of the ministry. As Gürsel Bey pointed out, if there are questions, let's take them. You can send your questions from the send your questions chat box. Maybe Cihat Bey, you have some questions to open the discussions, and we can continue. Thank you very much, Ezgi Hanım. Gürsel Bey, thank you very much. You told the process, and we experienced that process ourselves. So in the public opinion, they were not discussions were higher and debate heated when the mucilage was on the surface, but we cannot see the mucilage on the surface, and as they're decreasing, the discussions decreased as well, but the discussions are continuing two ways, and there's administrative and technical subject. And I'd like to ask Barış Bey the technical question. You say Marmara Sea Basin, and this concept should be within the literature, and it's a very functional step to have this in the literature. In Marmara Sea Basin, there are the diffuse loads with the precipitation, for example, with the surface flow. There are certain water within into the sea. Is it very difficult to have the calculations? This data were so low, and in the projections, I think that the data cannot be there with the distributed load. And there should be technical uh, information, and what do we take into account for the calculation? And while having the digital print of Marmara Sea, this is this is the part which is not very clear, and there was a project conducted, and because of the distributed load, there are 80,000 tons was calculated by us, but there was also look basin 30,000 tons, and when you disseminate all the basin, we can say 80,000. And as Gürsel Bey pointed out, because of this distributed load, we are talking about 300,000 tons. And of course, the Minister of Agriculture have contribution in this regard. There was a question, maybe you or Ekim Hanım asked, is it the agriculture or is it the industry? When you look at the distributed loads, and we can, it is calculated that there will be important input from the agriculture. These are calculations, of course. There are some measurements taken in the rivers. Yes, they are, but at the end of the day, what kind of agriculture is there, and what is the industry? And of course, you calculate all of these, and regarding them, there are there are not uncertainties, and of course, this can be calculated, and of course, and there are the serious activity is there in Susurluk Basin. We need to look at with the equipment what's coming from the river to the sea. So we will take measurements there. This is important because there is precipitation and there is flood. With the flood water, there is. It's said that there are huge inputs, but it is very difficult to calculate this or measure this. From the industry, we have the figures, but we don't know to what extent they are right. And the controls increased recently. And what is the reason of this? There were some leakages. That's why there were controls. And what is the ratio of this? I'm not only talking about Marmara, and there are similar activities in the world. There are some uncertainties, and it's not easy to do that. We have important initiatives with the research centers. If it is more disseminated and automated, I think that will be good, because there are some uncertainties, and the structure of the nitrogen and the phosphorus is very important. Some of them sediment to the bottom of the sea very fast, or biologically they do not cause a change. The biology There are different forms of these, and of course, for looking at this, we have to have some activities. And the ones from the agriculture feed the sea more, and in the literature there is that, and there are the industrial waste, but maybe the impact of from industrial from the Black Sea is low.
From the Black Sea biologically used structure, what comes from the industry could be very different according to the specification of the industry, but some affect the biology and ecology too much, some do not do that much. But agricultural waste and pollution is worse, as we see in reference papers, and it's quite complex. So we can't just say, let's do it and do it the next day. The sensitivity is important. Awareness is very important. As Mr. Gürsel said, the preventions and precautions shall be taken very decisively and very urgently, because too much input and too much weight, and it's not easy to clean all the marine debris and litter. I would like to support the professor, and I would like to add something. Agriculture Ministry of Agriculture has made a study with, we have to say what is the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey had made this research, and the load is not all of it. And also distributed load, how much comes to the Marmara Sea, calculation is very hard. So we have to do some sort of modeling by dividing it. And it's phosphorus and nitrogen. We say nitrogen and phosphorus, but nitrogen has all sorts of subclasses of nitrogen and subclasses of phosphorus. So which forms are important for us? It's very important. The Black Sea, nitrogen and phosphorus are in the form of not causing contamination. But when we look around the Marmara Sea, especially from the distributed load, we don't know what the real load is. It's not only the Marmara Sea, the north of the Marmara is agriculture, but this load is not the same as the Susurluk region. It would be equal. That's why agriculture is so high. How much of it reaches the sea, and the nitrogen and phosphorus, how much of it changes and how much of it stays at the land, we don't know. It comes 50% from agriculture, 50-50 in Marmara and others, so it's 120,000 tons, and out of it is 72,000 tons of the basin comes from the basin. 70% goes to the plants, 30 to 40% of the fertilizer reaches the Marmara Sea. We're still going on with the research, so we cannot clearly say that's the potential, but we're still having the research and the studies are going on to know how much of this is the distributed load that reaches the Marmara Sea. Ezgi Hanım has a question probably. Actually, I would like to ask some of the questions. I would like to ask Professor Barış or anyone, mucilage, is it a natural disaster or is Marmara Sea as a receiving medium? How much of discharge affects it? I also have fishing questions, but let's start with this. Would you like to start, Mr. Gürsel? Yes, I can start. Scientifically, perhaps you start. It's better as scientific start, and then I will go on. Now, is it a natural disaster? The answer is it is a disaster. We all say it's a disaster, a natural disaster, but it is the source of this disaster is human beings. Mucilage does exist in the nature. Under certain stress, microscopic organisms do have mucilage, but if it stays at a certain level, if there is no overgrowth, it's okay. We focus so much on mucilage because we saw it by our bare eyes, but what is very important, the real reason for anxiety is all these pressure on Marmara Sea. It's not only pollution, high nitrogen, phosphorus, and much less oxygen. Less oxygen is the real cause for concern, and we shall emphasize this reduction in oxygen. When we look at the sea, we cannot say, okay, here there is less oxygen. When you see mucilage, you say, okay, here it's gone when it's cleaned. But mucilage, with the minister's efforts, disappeared. But the problem exists still there. So we have to have an action plan for this problem. This is a very righteous and good action plan, and I'm very proud and happy to have a contribution to this action plan. So mucilage in the Marmara Sea is mainly because of all these pressures causing it. And the second question was Ergene Basin, Ergene Reservoir. Here again, as Mr. Gürsel should be replying to this, but what we get from the Ministry of Agriculture, Ergene discharge capacity is very small, 10% or 20% capacity of discharge. So it's not the reason of mucilage. It's not right. It's not possible to say so. That's an additional pressure. But there are lots of pollutions from everywhere, and this is a plus from Ergene. If we can keep this under control, of course, we must have it cleaned. But we cannot say that is the reason from our perspective. It's not possible. But as Mr. Gürsel can say much clearly. Now, thank you, Professor. Ergene deep sea discharge system being the reason of this mucilage is impossible. Completely impossible, because this Ergene system is 3.2 of the normal capacity. And after advanced water treatment this discharge reaches the Marmara Sea. We have advanced biological treatment plants. Isn't it what we're trying to do? Isn't it what we're trying to reduce the nitrogen and phosphorus influx to the Marmara? It's only 2 out of 3 that is active. The first question was, is mucilage a natural disaster? It's not a natural disaster, but it is in the same quality of a natural disaster. Of course, it's the result of human activities, but it cannot be controlled by humans. That's why we call it natural disaster. It's a result of, mucilage is a result of human activity, but cannot be stopped and controlled by humans. I also saw another question here. Fire, mucilage, natural disasters come around. A new emergency regulation and coordination. Is there a new approach? And the second question is, Marmara Sea ecosystem distortion, mucilage, and other problems. What about fishing and overfishing? Does it have a role in this? Could you please answer together? Thank you. Primarily, global climate change. When we look at the last 2 years, we see that the floods, storms, erosions, and natural disasters, it comes to mainly water will be affected because drought is on the way. And we have to reuse the water that we discharge. And in the natural disasters, we have a natural disaster managerial position in Internal Affairs Ministry, and they are also in floods, we have already an institution for landslides, and of course we already have a managerial thing, but we have a very good collaboration. Culture of collaboration is very good. We are in coordination. All the ministries are in coordination. Also, source management is very good. Equipment and vehicles from A and B, they are used together. So each institution says, I need this, that, helicopters, plane. It's whatever we have in Turkey in total, all the resources are re-coordinated, just like we did in the mucilage, like our minister headed. In the flood, it's also, again, the internal ministry coordinates this. Also, ecology, fishing. Fishing, of course, has an effect or no effect. We can't say that. But mucilage-wise, if I'm saying wrong, please correct me. Fish, could there be a break in the food chain? Food chain, small fish are fed on these phytoplanktons, if they were broken from the chain, then this could be the explosion of the mucilage. But Ministry of Agriculture haven't declared anything related to the fishing after the studies. Fish ecosystem was not negatively affected, but studies are going on to see if there is a breakage in the chain, food chain of fish. Please correct me if I'm telling wrong, Professor Barış. The fourth is with mucilage, especially the small fish are fed on mucilage, and small fish has no problem in population. Ministry of Agriculture declared that already. Thank you very much. Marmara Sea Action Plan lately have some news on it in social media. There are comments. Mucilage was in the surface. We can't see it visually anymore, so it's not important. Okay, it's over. Everyone has some sort of relaxed, and we see that it's not that way. We already know it, but as Mr. Gürsel clearly states, that I would like to thank Mr. Gürsel for collaborating with and sharing it with NGOs, public sector, Minister of Agriculture. So it's very decisive in going on with the process. My question is, keeping under control, as Ekim Hanım showed in the polls, keeping under control is very important. The community thinks our regulation is okay, but treatment plants, cleaning techniques are all good on the 21st century. No problem with the budget, but audit, frequency of audits. What about transparency, interchange of information, and also perhaps communication? There's a gap in communication. What about auditing and the results of these auditing? Could you please tell about this, because people need information about it, Mr. Gürsel? Thank you very much. And it's a good question. As Marmara Sea and the reservoir have said, the basin says it, this mucilage period during pandemics, after the pandemics, production was, during pandemic, everyone stayed at home, so people started to wash their hands very frequently than they used to do it twice a day. Of course, one of the main phosphorus influx, detergents, too much detergent was being used. So action plan is also contains that. And activities, when industrial activities restarted, the water treatment plants are not like a car that you ignite and it starts working. Water treatment plants need minimum 30 days to start efficiently working, because there would be mud. It's just like yeast. There must happen a yeast. It must establish a yeast in the treatment plant, sort of, in a way. So when we look at this, at the water treatment plants are not, they are like the environmental infrastructures. They're always spending They cannot gain much from energy, from staff, chemicals. All are wasting money in a way, so you can't see it by your bare eyes. So cleaning plants, some cleaning plants are not according to the regulation. And the ministry had audits in the region. I can also find the numbers. 465 auditors. Our ministry had 8,813 audits in Istanbul, Kocaeli. Marine security, over 7,000, so a total of 16,500 audits, and 22 plants were stopped working, and 58 plants were closed. 3 in Yalova, 15 in Balıkesir, 14 in Tekirdağ. So in the basin, 58 was banned from working. So environmental sensitivity was not shown in the infrastructure, and regulations were not followed. So when we look at the treatment plants, 50% of the electricity they consume, we pay. But still, the municipalities and the industry did not use these treatment plants. Audit and monitoring. First, auditing the establishment. Second is the remote perception from the receiving environment and from the source. Up to 150 monitoring points, also from the rivers flow monitoring stations. So we have them, and we do remote monitoring, and it is increased significantly, and monitoring goes on. Monitoring is important, and audit is also important, and we need to increase both. I agree with that, and we need more qualified monitoring. I think Ekim Hanım wants to add something. We're about to close as well. As we do the October 21st play design, one of the problems in 2021, end of 2021, Marmara Sea will be a prevention zone. So it's important for environmental protection. I think that will be the first. Until the end of 2021, how would this be possible? Do we have studies on this? Is it going on? And if this starts, how would it affect the other activities? Because it's important for our play dynamics. Thank you. Prevention zone declaration, we have completed our studies and work, and from our nature protection council, the study is going on. But when you declare the protection zone, from diving to fishing to discharge, everything will be regulated. So it will be nice. Industry, agriculture, all of it, because the Sea of Marmara, as Ezgi Hanım asked, Sea of Marmara is a receiving environment. That's why the mucilage came and the pollution became. For Marmara Sea, we polluted for many years. We have to stop this. And when we declare it a prevent protection zone, then, as we said, pollution sources, and there will be also holistic fight against pollution. And when we declare it a protection zone, then the zone will be protected. And within a few days, it will be declared to the public. We're about to complete that. Then, at the end of our session, I would like to ask, October 21st in Eurasia, we will be able to play this live, and our mayors will come in, and whoever wants to join this play can come to play. There will be specialists from industries. This play Marmara, previous play Marmara, and this play Marmara, what would feed each other? And we are talking about a zone of the Marmara Sea, the basin of Marmara Sea. And when we think about the two studies supporting each other, and yesterday there was a new report, Marmara Region Spatial Development Strategic Framework. There will be a tertiary perspective and also sea marine. My question is, this play Marmara Sea, Denizi, what can we learn? What can we solve? What will be the benefit? Could you please tell about this? Thank you very much. I was trying to show the slides and talking about the distribution of load, and what about the land usage and its spatial distribution. In the game board also we have the map, and if all sub-regions could be represented here that are informed, and as we say, play gives a database, but each time the play learns again. So it's important to complete the data, and also sub-regions will have information exchange and new collaborations is possible. On the other hand, the team that contributed to the public opinion poll and survey, we can enlarge to contain more invitations, invite other people as well, and have a bigger team. It's possible. Thank you, Ekim Hanım. If you need to add anything, Professor Barış, Mr. Gürsel, and then we can close. If you would like to add anything. I would like to thank the Marmara Municipality Union. I would like to express my gratitude for the organization. Thank you very much. Professor Barış. Really, it's a very important session, and we did discuss thoroughly. This play is academically also important. The results of the poll outcomes are important, both the community's perspective, the public perspective, and followed by the playing of the game, what the managers will be expectations of the managers. As we have shown, we also have scientific scenarios. We will see the managerial perspective, and of course, they also have economic dimension and applicability. And also, as Ekim Hanım said, there will be different expectations from the community. If many people come in and play, this will be more beneficial for the health of the Marmara Sea. I would like to thank for this invitation to MMU. Cihat Bey, could you please close this session? Thank you very much, Ezgi Hanım. October 21st, the physical IFAC of Eurasia, we made a collaboration technologically. Action plan companies are there. So together, Play Marmara Denizi will be physically played on a game board. And I would invite everyone who are interested to come over and play with us. Thank you very much. It was a great session for me. I shall express my gratitude, and I wish you a very good Maruf organization that is going on. Goodbye.